Cheers! Now then, how are you doing? I'm Steve and welcome to my workshop.
So, I guess we better make a table. Luckily, I found some ash, and as it's rough sawn, I think I need to put it through the planer and the thicknesser to get it nice and square and cleaned up. I don't want to bore you with that, so while I get on with this, let's take a look at the design of the table. So while Steve's busy milling up that timber, let's talk about the design. I went for a round top, and I could just glue up 3 planks of wood and then cut a circle out using a variety of methods and have a circular top, but that seems a bit boring. So let's make a top out of 4 segments, and just for fun, let's cut a diamond in the middle of a contrasting wood. So let's move on to the legs, and I wanted something different and unusual, and I was inspired by one of my favourite YouTubers, Chris Salomone, who makes some really curved, wonderful furniture. So the design I came up with is a sort of Y-shaped design, and it looks a bit like a branch of a tree. So we've got one leg, and then let's have another leg. And of course, if we've got 2 legs, we need a top, and I could join the top to the legs using some mortise and tenons, which I'll cut with the shaper. Of course, we're going to need a 3rd leg because it's a 3-legged table and we don't want it to fall over. These drawings aren't to scale, but if you do want to know the size, it's 510mm tall by 302mm wide at the top. Okay, let's get back to me in the workshop.
So I don't know about you, but I'm a big believer in making a prototype. It seems to help me understand the overall proportions of a piece. Proportions? Is that about proportions? Proportions of a piece. And to get to visualise what the final object looks like. It also helps to understand any construction issues that we might have along the way. These are the Chris Salomone inspired legs we talked about. They're just made out of MDF at the moment, but I'll make these out of some ash. In the prototype I made them out of 2 parts and I joined them together with a little domino. But I think I found some ash wide enough that I can cut these out of one piece and that will look a bit better. On the ends they've got a little tenon that I cut, which fits into the corresponding mortise on the bottom of the table. So that's our prototype. Let's get on and make the real thing.
So for this project, I thought I'd break out the Shaper Origin. I've had it a while, and it's a fantastic little piece of kit. This is me just using some double-sided tape to stick down a piece of ash that's going to be one of the segments of the table. The double-sided tape works really good, but because it's quite thick and I'm going to be routing quite deep, I thought I'd add some stop blocks just for a bit of belt and braces because we don't want that thing moving once we start. The Shaper is a handheld CNC. It's basically a small 1/4-inch router that's strapped to a computer with a screen a bit like an iPhone screen. So the first step in getting started is me scanning in the Shaper workstation, and you'll notice the black marks are called dominoes, and the Shaper has a camera that reads them so it knows where it is in space on the X and Y axis. This is me choosing one of the segments that I drew on a computer, and if I can draw it on a computer, so can you. The screen is a touch screen, so I can input the depth of cut, an offset, the size of the router bit, and then I can do what they call a Z touch or a Z touch. So the Origin knows the distance between the tip of the router bit and the workpiece, so we can cut to the correct depth. Then it's a case of pressing go and moving the router following the blue line. If you move outside the line, the Origin corrects you up to 12mm. If you go any further than that, the Origin will lift itself and not let you spoil your workpiece. And it's simply a case of going round the pattern. I think I did 4 or 5 passes till I got all the way through. Then I just need to do that 3 more times and cut out a square for the middle.
Okay, so we've got the piece of walnut and let's see if it fits. Come on, get yourself in. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Wow.
I seem to have lost the footage of me gluing the top up, but it was a straightforward globe, and I just used the band clamp to hold everything together and let it dry overnight. Because the legs were too big to fit on the workstation, I put some shaper tape on a piece of MDF on my workbench, and then I could use the same principles as I did before to cut out the shape that I'd drawn in a few passes, and here presto, the legs are all done.
So now we've got our 3 legs that we cut out with the shaper. We've also got our top that we made that looks really good. So now we need to work out a way for the legs to fit to the top.
So I can now use the grid feature of the Shaper Origin to make a virtual grid on the machine using the actual workpiece. See me plot out 3 points, and then I've got a 1mm grid on the top there. Now using the tools on the Shaper, I can design the tenon, which I'm going to cut on the top, and because I've made a grid, I can place this tenon in exactly the right place. And because of the stops and the grid, I can use this same pattern now on all 3 legs without having to set it up again. Again, it's just a case of following the lines. And because it's end grain, I can do these in 2 passes.
Okay, so it's maths time with Steve. I've got to find the middle of this circle. So I reckon that if I put that on there, put a mark, do the same with that corner, and put a mark, that's the middle of our square. Let's just pop that in. That's pretty good, so that's the diameter of the square. So now if we do this and we put a line through the middle of this, and now we put our line, our thing on there, and put a mark. Getting the right way around, Steve? So if I put that on there now, and put a mark there, and 1 there. If we join the dots, we will get ourselves to put the one up the middle that we had in the beginning. Hey, the old school maths is coming back, innit? So, I've got the shelf out and I've put some blocks on the shelf to stop the tabletop from sliding backwards or sideways. And I've marked a piece of tape on the workstation with the centre of the workstation on. So the idea is that we'll cut the two holes with the shaper, the two mortises, shall we say, with the taper, and then I can take the top off, turn it round, reposition it so it's back in the centre, cut the next two, turn it round, cut all three, bingo, we should be good. What do you reckon? Let's give it a go, eh?
So as with the tenons, I've drawn the two shapes for the mortises, and using a grid on the face of the piece, I can position these exactly where I want them, and I only have to do this procedure once. Again, follow the lines and cut out the holes. This time we're going to be doing a pocket cut, followed by an inside cut, which we can adjust by fractions of millimetres so that the tenons will fit. Small round over to all the legs and a 45-degree chamfer to the top. Time for a bit of sand, and then we're on the homeward stretch.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Thanks for watching. See you next time.